It did say that, didn't I? I fully thought that's what it said. I fully thought it said. Hi guys, welcome back to the Heal Project. We are back with our Theory Thursday. Been a good one. Last week's one was absolutely batshit mental. Like, I'll be honest, at this point it hasn't gone out. I haven't fully finished editing it, but I know
my mic fell over.
It's going to have done absolute bits, because I'm sure it will do. Because I don't want to say much more.
Yeah.
Let's go and watch it. It would have popped up here somewhere around me. I'm sure it would have done at some point and just been like, hey, this is a thing. Hi everyone, can I just please ask you to like the video for me whilst we're here? And then maybe subscribe if you haven't already. And if you don't like it, you can always reverse those decisions later, can't you? Back to the content. Bye. But we finished with Pete on the last recording. We are going to do Phil going up first for this week.
I'll just do what Superman does. Hello, citizen.
Mr. Philippe from Off the Line.
Yes.
Or zero for line. The line.
Yeah, zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
Zero the line.
Are you sitting comfortably?
Yeah.
And I shall begin.
Yeah, he did it.
So, in 1960, arguably the greatest band in music history was formed. They were called the Beatles and was made up of four lads from Liverpool. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr. Singer-songwriter and bass player Paul McCartney was born on the 18th of June 1942 and went on to become one of the most successful recording artists in history, and not just because of his 10-year run in the Beatles. He's also known for many solo albums, the band Wings, Live and Let Die, which was the theme song for the James Bond film of the same name, and then we have We All Stand Together, or the Frog Song as it's known. Have you all heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all heard it. Incidentally, it was a track as a very young boy made me cry.
Oh.
The frog scared me. And he is also a two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. Or is he? So this particular theory started early in 1967 in London, and it was claimed that after an argument between the bandmates on the 9th of November 1966, Paul sped off in his car and a short time later crashed his car on the M1, which left him decapitated and then unsurprisingly dead.
What?
Yeah. So imagine back in the day how big the Beatles were at that time. They were absolutely massive. They were huge the world over, and you've seen plenty of footage of men, women and children going absolutely mental at the sight of the band. And as John Lennon said, they were literally bigger than Jesus. So part of the reason that they stopped touring was due to the sheer volume of screaming from adoring fans, which meant they couldn't hear themselves play live all too well. So can you imagine the hysteria that would have followed if it was announced that Paul had died? So it was due to the fear of hysteria that the MI5 advised the band and its management to find a replacement. In 1969, after the theory had been doing the rounds, largely in thanks to American college students, a Detroit DJ by the name of Russ Gibb was hosting his radio show, and an anonymous caller told him to play the intro of Revolution No. 9, which is a track off the White Album, but play it backwards, to which Gibb and his listeners then heard the words, "Turn me on, dead man." This is one of many subliminal messages within Beatles tracks that refer to the theory, and I'll mention more later on. Right, so backwards you hear. You get it?
That was the worst thing I've ever heard, but okay.
But they did put it in there for,
I don't know.
Okay, so let me ask this question. I know you've still got
Before
to go.
I was gonna say before you laugh more.
When was that song released in comparison to when he supposedly died?
White Album come out in 1968.
So 2 years after he supposedly died.
Yeah.
When did the rumours start?
Before he died.
Started in
Probably, because he's not dead.
67, 68, 69. It was on.
So the rumours started after that song came out. Okay, I was going to say maybe that song was, leading into the rumours, just trying to take the piss out of the fans, essentially. Because let's be honest, if you're that rich and powerful, why wouldn't you?
But is that not the case of it's? I said for me, if it was a bit of a stretch, is that because it is a bit of a stretch? People are looking for something that I don't know that maybe isn't there.
Well,
I'm not saying definitely.
The story is that Capitol Records at the time were making huge record sales on this because after the theory had come out, the fans were buying more than the one record to literally have the one to play and then the one to play backwards just to see if they could hear anything within, and they were just wearing them out. So the sales for Beatles records around that time were massive. So from the radio appearance, an American student who had been tasked with writing an article reviewing the new Abbey Road album decided to look deeper into the theory instead to see what else the music and its cover art was hiding in relation to the theory that Paul had died and been replaced. The article was published in a university newspaper and was picked up by other newspapers and radio stations, not just in the US, but in the UK too. Yeah. But as we know, there is still a Paul McCartney. Does the dog know that as well?
Yeah.
I just wants to giggle it out.
There's still a Paul McCartney. Who is he? After Paul had died, he was replaced by a Scotsman called Billy Shears. Okay? The Billy Shears story goes that William Campbell Shears entered and won a Beatles lookalike competition organised by Brian Epstein, who was looking for a Beatles double just in case one of his boys could not perform, became sick, and or died. But
just in case.
What?
Just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case.
But as we found out, this was a direct instruction from MI5. Weirdly, no winners were ever announced for this competition. After Paul was killed in the accident on the M1, Brian Epstein is also said to have bribed police and journalists to keep the accident under wraps. He then persuaded the remaining Beatles to stay together and accept Shears as the replacement. It was the remaining Beatles who taught him how to play, and the posh Scouse accent soon appeared, and a little bit of minor plastic surgery did the trick. This was made all the easier to keep under wraps, as the Beatles had just decided to quit touring and were seen in public less and less. As mentioned before, there are many nods to this theory within the Beatles' music and its cover art. One of the examples I came across years ago when I first heard of the theory as a young Beatles fan was, if you reverse the end of the Beatles track, I'm So Tired, you'll hear John say Paul is dead man, miss him, as you've already heard. It's cover sleeve and art for the Sgt. Pepper's album that seems to give us a lot more clues. This was the first album released since Paul's death. So if you look into it, there's loads of info on this. You can go on forever about it, you really could. But if you just think about Sgt. Pepper's album cover alone, Paul is the only band member holding a black instrument, black meaning death. Yeah.
Right.
There's also an open hand above Paul's head, which also signifies death in the Eastern mysticism. Holding a mirror to the bass drum on the cover reveals a hidden message. So it might be, I don't know, you can see, there's images of this as well. I don't suppose you want to do it, but you can see the image. Holding the mirror up reveals the number 1 and the word 1, which if you put them together is the number 11, followed by the Roman numeral for the number 9.
Or 2.
If you think back to when he was supposed to have died 9/11 or the 9th of November. And then after that, it follows the words, he died.
It's some Illuminati shit there. They're just predicting fucking 9/11, really, aren't they? That's what happened.
Also on the cover, there is a flower arrangement.
Yeah, but Beatles predicted 9/11 is what you just told me. That's
they predicted 11/9.
There you go. Beatles predicted 9/11. Good night.
Better than Stevie Wonder.
Where was I up to? Oh yeah. There is a flower arrangement of a left-handed bass guitar towards the bottom of the picture. Paul was a left-handed and was the band's bass player. You can also see that Paul has on his left sleeve there's a badge that says OPD on it. That's meant to insinuate officially pronounced dead.
Right.
Okay.
So,
also on the cover, I found this one interesting. Whether it's probably, I don't know. Well, you'll see what you think. Also on the cover of the album, there are 4 wax figures of the Beatles pre-Paul's death. You can see that John, Paul, and George are the same height, but the picture of the 4 of them that's front and center of the album cover is the Beatles in their psychedelic years. You can see Paul is noticeably taller. The wax figures were made to specification and reflect their analogous heights. So, what the height back then? Yeah. There's also a huge reference to Billy Shears in the opening track of Sgt. Pepper's. Ironically, it's Paul that sings the line, "So let me introduce to you the one and only Billy Shears." I could literally, there's so many of them from that album alone. But for me, there are other interesting examples that you can look at. If you ever heard I Am the Walrus, familiar with the song? Yeah, Pete's nodding. At the end of that track, there is a sample.
Seems foolish.
No.
What?
I'm not. I'm not a Beatles fan at all. Like, sorry.
More of just a regular bug.
Well, there must be at least one Paul McCartney involved song that you like.
Something about octopuses in a garden or something.
Well, no, because that was
that was the real Paul McCartney
that wrote that.
Oh, well then, no.
Okay. Anyway, at the end of that song, I Am the Walrus, there's a sample of the BBC Live broadcast of Shakespeare's King Lear, to which you'll hear the words, "Oh, untimely death." Okay? I mentioned before as well about the Abbey Road album. It's an iconic image showing the 4 of them crossing the road on a zebra crossing near the Abbey Road studio. It's alleged that the photo is said to represent a funeral procession. So you have John Lennon in white, he's the preacher. Ringo in black, who's said to be the Undertaker. Not the Undertaker, but an Undertaker.
Sorry.
Yeah, I know that's coming. Then you've got Paul McCartney that's next. He's said to be the corpse. And the fact that he's the only one in the picture that's barefoot, which is also meant to signify death as well in some way. And then you've got, right at the back, you've got George, who's dressed in blue denim and is the gravedigger, which is what they would have wore at the time, apparently.
They would have done?
I didn't know that. You can go on and on about many examples of musical clues and some subliminal messages within songs, which in itself has its own conspiracy theories. And as with most conspiracy theories, there's so much information to read and watch in relation to the Paul is dead theory. But is any of it true? Did Paul McCartney die in 1966 and was replaced by a lookalike? Or is Paul McCartney just an old-fashioned Scouse lad that grew up to be one of music's doubted legends?
Don't know, but we need to go away, apparently.
Go away!
Oh, Pete just gets a full Sunday roast in the middle of the fucking recording as well.
Sunday roast, don't swear like that. Sorry, Phil.
1966. The accident happened, right?
November 9th, 1966.
What sort of car?
Blue one.
Okay, no, right, look. I want to know more about this accident. Because this is an accident that's apparently definitely happened. I want to know more about it, because there's going to be facts. So what are the facts around this accident?
Should we investigate? Because I'm not quite sure.
Nah.
I've just checked. I found out apparently it was a Lotus.
Lotus Exige.
What, in 1966? No, Link.
Esprit?
No, Link. Elan, and you're probably a bit closer, mate. It was an Elan, yeah.
So the reason I'm asking about the car is I want to know what happened, like what the crash was. Like, what did it crash into? You know, it's on the M1. I'm assuming if it's a big crash, it's probably shut down a motorway. That's a busy old motorway for a celebrity to have a crash on and shut down a motorway, and for there to be no press at all about it.
It was in the 60s, so that's the one thing. Back in the day, it's a lot easier to hide something else because you wouldn't have had the on-the-spot cameras and footage. It would only been from press, and there weren't even mobiles about to contact people.
You said yourself these people were bigger than Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, there's paparazzi still existed. Like, they're going to be following them.
Yeah.
So
I get that. To be fair, in researching the whole thing and from what I knew, I don't think I've ever actually thought about the crash itself. So it's a good point. Yeah,
it's probably, if you're going to start with a conspiracy theory, the best place to start with a theory is from the beginning. And the point of the conspiracy is this crash.
The lookalike competition did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, it was like it's a legit thing. Like it was factually found. I mean, one of these was a entrant. Bearing in
so
mind,
if I remember right,
that's the real
guy
one.
on your left is So the guy on the left is Billy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to say Charlie Chaplin once entered a lookalike competition. Oh, Charlie Chaplin, and came third.
Yeah. He did.
I can't get past the crash point, and then the fact that you're saying that MI5 are the reason that this happened. I just that's where you completely lost me.
But I don't think you're appreciating just how big that they were, though.
Oh no, I am.
But why?
But the fact that I'm appreciating how big they are is why I'm now not even more confused about why there's not more information about the crash.
I'm with Link. Why did what reason would MI5 have to cover up a celebrity crash like Paul McCartney? Is what Link's trying to say, I think.
It was the widespread fear of mass hysteria and basically girls just topping themselves because of how heartbroken they would have been that one of the Beatles, the biggest band in the world, was dead. And that's the story. That's the theory. We all know through the theories that we've covered so far in this little series that you're doing, anything's possible to cover up.
Yeah.
Well, as a theory, not
as a theory.
Yeah, not necessarily.
I think you've got a lot more chance of covering it up then than you have now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that fully.
Sorry. My next point now I wanted to ask about was you've got this guy's name that's supposedly the new Paul.
What happened to him?
Yeah, what's his history now? Has he just disappeared? Like what?
Where's Billy?
There's no one tracked him down and gone, hey, by the way, are you now pretending to be Paul McCartney?
His Billy is now Paul. Vanished, there is no Billy. There's a Paul. So there's a Billy Paul.
So my point that is that. So what you're saying is by that theory is that Billy would have just
vanished,
disappeared.
Yeah.
So the people that would have gone to school with him, that would have grew up with him, his parents either know him as Paul now, or
don't know him at all,
because he's disappeared.
He just disappeared.
The thing is, if I was him and he was still around, surely he would have come forward and gone, "That ain't me, I'm me. I entered that competition," and he hasn't come forward. So surely it's like, well,
or he's just like, what a bunch of bloody idiots. And to be honest with you as well, it would stand to reason.
What's his name?
The Beatles obviously know about this thing happening.
Cheers.
The Beatles know about this thing's happening, which is why they're putting in all these subliminal messages and all the rest of it to try and cash in on it. And they've also paying him off at the same time because they're like, hey, let's make some money out of it.
That was where I was getting, but I didn't get as far as that. But yeah,
So
if I was Billy Shears, I'd definitely come forward knowing that I can get some money.
But this is it. He might not come forward because he's already getting the money from the Beatles.
Yeah, but this is the thing. You're Billy Shears now. You're sat on a fortune, and everybody thinks you're Paul McCartney, and you own or did own all the rights to Michael Jackson's songs. You know what I mean? I'd be quite happy just sat there letting.
No, that's what I mean. If I wasn't Paul, if I wasn't Paul and just sitting in my house going, I'd get a few quid out of this. But if he is Paul, you'd sit on that and just see you later. Oh, I'll carry on doing this.
But I'd argue the fact again is why. Obviously, because I'm assuming money is still any revenue they make from the Beatles is still being paid into like John Lennon's family, for example.
Yeah.
So why would they want to spread that money more by having some random guy have more money? It's a bit odd.
Just suppose that they could have carried on for longer. They still made. I reckon they must have made a massive amount after Paul went.
I have one more question.
Go.
One more question. And I forgot it.
Shit.
He's done hundreds of interviews and media appearances and things over the years.
Yeah.
Has he ever been asked?
Oh, he must have been.
Yeah, he would have been asked.
So I think, again,
Excuse me,
back,
are you dead? Like,
I don't.
No, but at some point, someone. I think this is true though. Someone at some point would have walked into a room and gone, "Billy," and just seen if he turned round. Let's be honest.
I'm just curious as to what his response would be. Like,
at the time of the thing, the Beatles had kind of like they stopped touring and they'd taken a back step and wasn't really in the public eye as much. As far as I'm aware, McCartney was on a farm in Scotland. He'd become a bit reclusive at the time, and people had kept asking questions and wanting to interview, and it was just like flatly declined. They didn't want to know.
Right.
So the rumor was never confirmed nor denied at the time, which is why the media kind of like ran with it as a thing. Eventually, reporters trespassed on his property, and McCartney came out kicking off. But apparently, allegedly, they took photos of him that he perhaps didn't want the public to see. So then agreed to the interview, and there's a picture of him, Linda, and the two kids on Time magazine, and that's from then. And he does kind of like say, "Well, no, I'm here. This is me." But in recent times, and I have looked, I can't find any instances of him being asked that question past the 80s.
I get the fan theory. I get the interest in it, but for me, my takeaway would be nah. Like you mentioned his wife and kids as well. Like you're telling me that his wife and kids pretended that this guy was their husband and father for years after he died.
The difference is here, Link, is that he wasn't married until after the
switch.
So
was he not?
He was in a relationship with a woman called Jane Asher between 63 and 68, but then he went on to marry Linda Eastman.
But even then, he stayed in a relationship for 2 years after he supposedly died with the same woman.
Yeah.
So he was in a relationship for 3 years before he died, and 2 years after he died with one woman.
I dare say, just to play devil's advocate, if you were being paid enough money, I could stand there and lie and say, yeah, we're dating, we're courting, or I guess they said back then. At the end of the day, like, especially if she is the real Paul McCartney's other half, like, she's going to want a bit of that money, and as she wasn't married to him, she's not entitled to fuck all.
Yeah,
and maybe
you get a payoff.
Maybe a little payoff of just saying, like, look, carry it on for as long as you can. Just to play devil's advocate, it's a thought. It could happen. You could do 2 years, no problem. You don't have to do anything. Just pretend that you're courting somebody. You know, it makes zero difference really. You just get the nice bit of wonga from it.
She could have used it to found Linda McCartney's vegan sausages.
Yeah.
The way it's a different woman. We're not even on about Linda.
Jane Asher was she? I can't remember if she was a model or whether she was an actress.
She was an actress, author, and entrepreneur.
Is she dead now?
No.
Right. Well, let's track her down and ask her.
The way I'm going to look at this,
slide into Jane Asher's DMs.
Did you pretend to be someone's?
I'll say this is as possible as Stevie.
As possible as Stevie. And whatever you thought last week about Stevie Wonder is what you're going to predict this week about Paul McCartney, right? Yeah. Cool.
To be none of it's impossible. None of it's impossible.
Don't get me wrong.
Impossible.
It's not impossible, but it is as close as impossibly. What? I went by the father, then I couldn't help it. Yeah, Phil, I'm sorry, mate. It's a big. Nah, I'm sorry.
It's mate. A no from me.
It's
something I've always been interested in, and I can't say either way.
The idea's there, but I'm afraid to say it. I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, but I won't be investing, and I'm out.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I can't say yes or no on this one.
Phil?
I've always liked
I mean, you can, but you don't.
I'll take that.
No, I've liked this one. This was one I was thinking about doing at one point
Phil,
because I got a genuine interest in it.
as you actually have obviously interest in it, Phil, and you have done the research and you've spent some time doing some research on it, what is your actual thoughts now? You can put it forward. You could get to the end of your theory and go, "Yeah, no, it's bollocks," because I did the same with 27 Club. But what? Go on. Thoughts?
I love a conspiracy theory, and I so want it to be true, but it's not true.
I think the way you didn't think about a car.
Instances of subliminal messages in songs. Gee, you could do your own half-hour video on that alone. I don't buy it.
Here's a fun one for you. If you play "Hi, My Name Is" backwards from Eminem, it says it's Eminem.
It does.
I don't know what to do with that, really.
It's just a fun fact.
I'll give it a
It's
go.
just a fun fact.
And if,
I'd love it to be true, just as a conspiracy theory alone.
Just because you didn't like Paul.
But yeah, I was never a Paul McCartney fan either. I was always John Lennon.
he was always a bigger Billy Shears fan. Yeah.
It's not for me.
I think we should track down Billy Shears and the other woman and get them on
on the theory.
Message Jane Ash. You know, I've got a number.
Yeah,
That's what my research was.
yeah, message.
But as
We'll get her on.
always,
Be like, "Excuse me, love."
as always, there is 4 of us, but you are the viewer are the 5th person. Let us know in the comments. Let us know on the main video. Let us know during the premiere what you think about this. I'm sure you have done already, but in the premiere anyway. But let us know. Leave it in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like and share and subscribe as well, like I should have said at the start of the video. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Do it now. Yeah, cool. Anything else to add, lads?
No,
I'm good.
When we will catch you in the next one.
See ya.
See you later. Should we investigate? Because I'm not quite sure.
Nah.